Welcome to Parenting Successful Teens, the podcast that cuts through the overwhelm and stress of this phase and offers parents simple, practical, cognitive, science-based strategies for keeping their teens on track. Join Master Coach and real-life mom, Allie Irwin, to talk about real teens, real problems, and the skills it takes to raise successful adults.
Hello, everybody. This week's podcast comes to you courtesy of the wise words of 2 Chainz. So I was watching a Trevor Noah show, and Trevor was talking to 2 Chainz about what he would do if he ran in politics, like what he would do if he was the mayor of his town. And he had all these different ideas, and it was a really fun interview. And at the end, he said this thing that I thought was so wise. He said, "Once you grown, your ass grown." I just love that idea, that piece of wisdom, that his idea was that we should be doing more to help disadvantaged youths, providing activities for them and things for them to do. But he was saying, like, once you're an adult, we should do more to help kids. But once you're an adult, it's on you. It's your responsibility. So I watched that interview, and then I contrast it with this sales training that I took, and it was only a 30-minute training. And in that short time, they bashed parents twice. They talked about how what your parents taught you about money is hampering your ability to sell now. And our money beliefs were learned at home. But you know what? To keep bringing up what your mom did when you were 4 doesn't help you change things now. It doesn't help you create the life that you want to lead now and the family that you want to have and all of the things. And it stood in such contrast to what 2 Chainz had said about, like, once you're an adult, it's on you to change things. It's on you to create what you want. So the idea of this podcast is that we should forgive our parents. And I know what you're thinking. I hear you. So many of my friends are like, yeah, easy for you to say. You weren't raised by my mom. Like, that bitch was crazy. And I got you. Like, I understand that. It's so common. I hear that from so many friends, and I hear it from so many clients. So many clients' parenting styles are informed almost by doing like the opposite. Like the pendulum swings the other way. Their parents were super strict, so they're trying to be more flexible. Or their parents, like, they had a very insecure childhood, and so they're trying to put a lot of structures in so that their children can feel secure. I hear that a lot. And my own first experience with coaching was about my relationship with my mom. A number of years ago, I had just come home from, another trip home to visit my parents, where I had returned back to my home crying. And so I was in my therapist's office, and I was saying, like, I just don't understand how to fix this. I don't understand how to let things go that happened in the past, or let things go the things I was crying about then were things that had happened like that week. But I wanted to have a more loving relationship with my parents, and I couldn't understand how to do that. And the therapist she didn't have any practical suggestions about how to change my feelings about my family. And honestly, that was my last therapy session, because I couldn't see a path forward, and it didn't feel useful for me to just go in and talk about it once a week. And so I was talking about it, I was still really upset, in a Facebook group, and a coach reached out to me and said that in all of the things that I was thinking about this relationship, I was giving my mom all the power. If I wanted to change the relationship, I had to take my own power back, and I had to take responsibility for the relationship. And that one, I, of course, hired her immediately. And over the course of 3 months, dramatically shifted my relationship. And it sounds a little bit like blaming the victim to say, like, whatever happened, like, it was my responsibility to fix it. But it wasn't that. It was empowering. Because when you say, my mom did a number on me, or you don't understand, my mom is crazy, You are saying that you are powerless to change because your mom broke something. Like you are permanently damaged in some way because of your mom's behavior. Or you are saying that in order for you to feel better, your mom has to change, which is again, puts you right back in that powerless place. And to be clear, your beliefs do generally come from the way that you were raised, a combination of your circumstances and your personality and your parents' personality and all of the things. But it's not something that's cemented in that you can't change. These thoughts don't have mystical, magical powers. There's a mechanism for how you were raised and how those beliefs got formed and how they are affecting your way of living now. So if you think about a belief that your mom had, like in my example, because I'm coming from that sales conversation where they were blaming parents, it might be selling is slimy, or asking people to buy from you makes you look needy or greedy or desperate, or it's embarrassing to market yourself. So your mom had that thought, and then she said things to you about that. She shared that thought with you, and then you believed that thought, and you thought it over and over and over until it became your belief. Okay, beliefs are, it's like when you have little kids and you want them to try a new food, and the experts say that you have to get them to try that food 10 times before you can really know if they like that food or not. Beliefs are like that too. If you think a thought over and over and over, eventually it myelinates in your brain and it becomes a belief. Okay, it becomes part of that belief soundtrack that runs in the back of your life. And so then once you have it as a belief, then you are generating that thought all on your own. Like when I go out to market myself, it's going to be embarrassing and I'm going to look needy or greedy. And when you're feeling needy or greedy, then you sell less. You make fewer offers, you market less, and you sell less. So in that way, your mom's thought that she repeated over and over and over to you, and it was just a thought, became part of your beliefs. And then because you were believing it and it's almost running in the background of your brain, then you think that thought, and then you feel needy or greedy, and then you make fewer offers. And the same thing, you can play it out with any example. You can play it out with relationships. You can play it out with how many times you post on Facebook in a week, or how much you weigh, how you behave in your marriage, anything. Any of those thoughts become beliefs. And then unless we purposefully change them, they become part of our beliefs. But here's the cool part. The process that you use to learn that first belief, you can use that same process to learn a new belief. Okay? I think that's so cool. And it didn't occur to me before I started coaching because I didn't really understand how the thoughts jumped from my mom into my brain. Because I didn't understand that process, I didn't understand how to use a process to fix things. Okay? So what you do is you reprogram your brain with new thoughts that serve you better. And this is different than positive thinking. Okay, positive thinking would have you go from something like, I'm terrible at sales, I don't know how to sell, wasn't even allowed to sell Girl Scout cookies, to I'm amazing at sales, I love sales. Your brain is not going to buy that. Brains reject thoughts like that. Okay, you need to give your brain, it's like if you've ever jumped across a stream, if you try to jump too far, if it's too wide, you're going to fall and scrape your knees on the riverbank. Okay, if the gap is too big, you're going to scrape your knees. Even with beliefs, if you try to make too big of a belief jump, you're going to scrape your knees. It's not going to work. You're not going to make it across the gap, and it's going to be painful, and you're going to be all wet and muddy, and you're not going to want to do it again. So what you want to do is you want to have a smaller belief, like a smaller step towards the belief you actually want to have. And it has to feel better. You can tell that because when you think that thought, you notice in your body how that new thought feels. And if it feels better than the old thought, then you know you're moving in the right direction. So that's the first test. And the second test is you have to already believe it. So typically something that you don't already believe will feel bad in your body when you run it through that first test. So that first test kind of almost takes care of both pieces, but I separate them out just so that it's really clear. So again, in the sales example, is the idea of sales is just a skill. For me to go from I'm terrible at sales to I'm good at sales, that would be too big of a leap. So I went from I'm terrible at sales to sales is just a skill and I can learn new skills. Okay, that felt true and it felt a little bit better. And then you practice thinking that thought over and over and over. Anytime your fear comes up, then you practice the new thought. So because this episode has to do with forgiving your parents, I thought I'd use a parent example. So you may be having the thought like, my mom screwed me up. And you want to stop thinking that and start feeling better. So you think of the thought that you currently have, like, oh, visiting my mom is such a nightmare. And then you move towards a thought that you want to have. I'm lucky to be able to spend time with her. And then you come up with a couple of thoughts that you can think that are in between those two extremes. And so that could be something like, she only comments on my kids because she cares. Or she is just doing the best she can. Or that's the way she was raised. She's just repeating the way she was raised. Just brainstorm until you come up with a couple of thoughts and then check in and see how they feel in your body. And if they feel better, then practice thinking that thought. This practice of thinking new thoughts on purpose will change your life. Okay, you will stop blaming other people for things that you actually have control over as an adult. When I stopped believing that my mom had screwed me up, when I stopped blaming her for how things were, and to be fair, I had a good childhood. And also, I had a good adulthood. And when I look back at the amount of blame and shame and frustration and all the drama that existed between us, like, I'm so grateful for this process. And the unintended benefit, which I didn't realize at the time that I was doing it, is when I stopped blaming my mom for screwing me up, then I also stopped believing that I could screw up my own kids. What? There's no way to think that your mom can screw you up without also believing that you can screw your kids up. And that's such a major part of the Bad Mom soundtrack that we talked about last week. The idea that you could do this thing and then your kids would be messed up and then for the rest of their life, they would blame you. Okay, you could make this one honest mistake and your kids would be mad at you for the rest of their life. That is a lot of pressure. And it's definitely not helping you be a better parent. It's hurting you. So let me save you some trouble. You are going to screw up your kids. We all make mistakes. And one day, if everything goes well, they'll screw up their kids. It's just too big of a job to get right. There are too many variables, and what's right for one kid is wrong for the other, but they were both in the same place and you didn't know what to do, or something that was right at the time becomes wrong in retrospect. For example, I was born on a dairy farm, and this is crazy to me. So I was born on a dairy farm, and the doctors told my parents that the best thing for their underweight premature baby would be to give me non-fat powdered milk. I could have been drinking cream as a baby. My little 5-pound self could have been drinking cream as a baby. But my parents, at great expense, went to the store and bought powdered non-fat dry milk. And now we know babies' brains need fat to myelinate, but they didn't know at the time. They made the best decision that they could have made at the time. And life is full of those kinds of decisions. And one of the bridge thoughts that really helped me was the idea they did the best they could. And did getting the wrong milk as a baby ruin my life? No. So definitely get support. If you want to change your life now, and if you need help with the process, I would love to help you. And the first step of it is to let your parents off the hook. Don't make what they did or what they didn't do your excuse for not having the life that you want. All right, if you could use help with this process, send me an email at parentingsuccessfulteens@gmail.com, and you can just put in the subject line free call, and I will send you a scheduling link, and we'll set up a time to start to map out where these thought patterns that you have are holding you back and what would be available to you if you started to shift those thought patterns. Okay, we'll run through one of these examples. All right, everybody, have a great week. Thanks for listening to Parenting Successful Teens. If you enjoyed today's show, then I've got a treat for you. I have a free guide that teaches you how to get your teenagers to tell you about their day. No more one-word answers. And grabbing this guide is super easy. Just text the phrase, "Get Teens Talking," as all one word, no spaces, to the number 44222. So that's the phrase, "Get Teens Talking," without any spaces, to the number 44222. And then you'll be prompted to give the email address that you want the guide sent to, and then it shows up in your email box just like magic. You know what else is magic? Having teenagers that talk to you. Now, I can't promise that you're going to like everything they have to say, but I can promise better conversations. Grab the guide, and I'll talk to you next week.